Everyone.
Hi.
And you know what today is? Today is Chime In Tuesday. And so today I want to kind of talk about a topic that while you were away in Atlanta, you were at I'll call it a convention. It was like a conference workshop. And you came back with talking about one particular word that has been on my lips, and I preach it. Well, not preach. That's a strong word.
Yeah, he preaches it.
Talks about is the word listen, or the act of listening. And I have spoken to companies, individuals, when they've asked me to come in and talk about customer service, and even on the fact that maybe it's not customer service driven, but potentially it's with your team or your employees. They say, well, they're not listening. And I'm like, but it's the delivery of it. It's when you're sitting there and you're taking in the message, are you actually listening, or are you just hearing what they're saying? And I think what you came from Atlanta was really, really, really cool.
Yeah. So before I sort of jump into the three types of listening, which stay with me. This is not going to sound like a classroom setting. I hope not.
Bear with me. It was good. I listened to it the first time.
Hey.
I'm just teasing.
I think that we all can recognize that, and I've been really, really guilty of this in the past, that I am not even really listening, and I'm not even listening or hearing. I'm just giving that person the space to speak and waiting for an opening so I can give my point. And I don't know if it was my years in recruiting and doing lots of interviews where my job was to actually listen for understanding and then ask other questions, like in follow-up, to really make sure I had a full understanding if the person had the skills for the job or not. Anyway, that's something that has really struck me over the years, is that you really can tell when people are listening just to, actually not even listening. They're waiting.
They're hearing. And this is what I have spoken about people. Because if you're just hearing, you're already, they've said something, and you're either going to respond right away, or you've actually tuned them out. And in a sense that if you're hearing, you're like, they've said something, he or she has said something, you're like, I'm ready to jump in. I'm just waiting. And you're not in your head, and you're smiling, and you're doing all those things. And then all of a sudden you jump in because there's that window of opportunity for you to say something. And yes, what you're about to say might have some reference to what that person was saying, but it may be so small, and that person went on about other things. It actually may have answered your question, but you just jumped in because you're not listening. You're just hearing something.
I think we're being a dead horse.
Right. Okay.
He's preaching. Yeah, you're doing your preaching. Talking. We're talking to me.
I'm talking to you.
Okay. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit more about those three types of listening, because yesterday when we were in the car, I was paraphrasing and I was trying to think of what the three things were.
But I liked what you said.
So I just grabbed my notes from the conference, and I should at least give a shout out to NLV. It was in Atlanta. Sarah Elkins put it on. Thanks, Sarah. Shout out to Sarah. And Sarah's sister, Karen, and Adrienne, and I can't even remember their last names. I will tag them so they can see this. They did a really awesome workshop with us, and they focused on listening from three perspectives. And I wish we could we should actually take the time. Maybe I could do that next week. Take the time to do the exercise. It was so powerful. It was so powerful. And so what happened was, this woman, Adrienne, she's amazing. She had a very, very emotionally charged story to share. And she said, I just want you to listen to the story. And so the first time we listened through our own perspectives. We always do. And we were asked, so how do you feel? And everyone's answer was to do with them. They were listening for almost selfish. It's almost like selfish.
Well, yeah, because you're hearing something and you're attaching it to personally what you've seen or been through.
Oh, imagine what if that was me.
Yeah, exactly.
And you imagine you're putting your own emotions into the situation.
Yeah, right.
So the first one was just listen. The second time the next moments later we were told, Adrienne's going to say the exact same story again. And this time, listen from the perspective of the storyteller. So in this situation, we were actually putting ourselves in her shoes. Mm-hmm. And then when we did the debrief, the answers were totally different in terms of what was the experience, what did it sound like, what did you hear? We heard totally different things. Third time, this was so cool, third time we were asked to listen to the exact same story that Adrienne shared and listen from the perspective of transformation. So listen for openings, listen for questions to ask for inquiring. Not for problem solving, but for inquiring. Mm-hmm. And it completely changed the listening again.
Right.
We were listening for opportunities for understanding. And it removed the emotion from the situation. And
I think this exercise was great. I wish I was there because I think again, this is a topic that I do talk about, and I think it's super important because as we may be listening, are you truly listening? And this exercise really breaks down how are you listening. And I know I can be guilty of it. Sometimes I hear something and it emotionally charges me right out of the gate. But then sometimes I can be pointed out that I am not listening correctly. But I am getting better in the sense that I can sit back and generally, while it's happening, I can catch it, not all the time. But it is super important that we are listening, not just hearing what is happening, but we're actually listening to whether it's the news, whether it's your partner, whether it's your children, or a business person you're dealing with, family member. You really have to understand the listening and what type of listening that you're doing. I think it's super, super
important. Are you listening to try and empathize with them? Mm. In that case, you might be listening to try and hear it from their perspective. Mm-hmm. Are you listening because you're trying to help solve the problem? And if you are, then you might want to try that last type of listening.
The question is that everyone out there, what type of listening are you doing? What type of listener are you? Because I think we will sit back and say, we can do all of this. I can do that. I can do this because I've been instructed to follow a certain way of doing it. But what do you naturally do? What kind of a natural listener are you?
Well, I already know the answer to that.
I know the answer to that. We're asking what you know, and this is where I think is super important for you. This is your opportunity to chime in and say something in regards to what type of listener you are and how do you do your listening. Everyone has an opinion. It's not just like, oh, I just listen. That's a cop-out. Like, of course you listen. Unless you're deaf, you're listening. So, and actually, I could get all philosophical. People who are deaf are listening, but I'm not even going to go down that road.
Yeah, just using different senses. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
So we really like to hear from you about what type of a listener are you. So, you know what to do. Chime in below. And until next Tuesday, we look forward to hearing from you. All right, then.
Have a great day.
Bye.